Hey everybody, it is Liberty Whispers here, and here I have a new video for you. I have the house to myself today, and I'm off work for a number of days, so that's good. I've just come back from holiday to do 3-day shifts, which I don't usually do. Some of you may know I work nights, so working through a day is a bit alien, but anyway, that's all just nonsense, I guess. I have in front of me here a dinosaur that is also a robot, which I will explain in a moment. But as you may be able to tell, I am feeling considerably better than I was a couple of days ago when I uploaded my last video, which was a coping mechanism, I guess. Although I can be somewhat of a needy person sometimes, I'm not somebody that goes looking for attention. In fact, I tend to try and shy away from attention, hence why you've never seen a face video, and why, although you can find images of me so easy, I tend not to kind of put myself out there as much as I could, or maybe should. That's maybe something I need to, I don't know, deal with at some point, but that is a different story for a different day, I guess. But yeah, I can be very much a recluse emotionally, I guess, and I can be very prone to bottle things up too much until breaking point, which is what I kind of reached the other night. Making a video about it. I don't know whether that was the best idea in the long run. I'm happy with the fact I did it. I haven't deleted it for a reason, because I want it to stay there. For a number of reasons, I want it to be a reminder to myself for the future of how far I've come, and I also want to leave it up there because it seems to be something that a number of people have kind of attached themselves to because they realise or recognise something within that video for themselves. Perhaps they've had problems or issues of a similar kind, perhaps they've felt in that place as well, and it seems from many of the lovely messages and comments and things which I never intended to go looking for, and of all just being an absolute sheer joy to read and a pure bonus to uploading that video, it seems that me kind of putting myself out there as I was in a somewhat very raw and vulnerable state, in a very honest and true state, has kind of helped people realise that they're not alone if they feel that way, and that there are other people going through the same issues and same problems, and that you don't have to face it on your own. And that's something that I myself am coming to terms with as well. You know, despite being a very stubborn man, I understand that there is real support and comfort and solace in the words and company, and even just recognition of others, I guess. So yeah, so if you commented or you sent a message, then I want you to know that it generally means the world to me, and it has definitely helped pep me up. Obviously, this is an ongoing problem, it has been for years, and it's something I'm going to probably have to deal with in various degrees and stages and forms of severity throughout my life. But at the moment, I think I broke through a sort of glass wall of sorts, and having such wonderful words given to me by such wonderful, caring and loving people has really helped me kind of pick myself up to kind of rebuild myself again. And you know, I'm taking every day as it is, and that's the best way I think to go, is to just kind of take each day as it comes and appreciate each day for what it is and what it brings, and that's my plan going forward, at least. And so yeah, I just want to say a really very sincere and heartfelt thank you to all of you who got in touch, or for all of those that kind of find solace and comfort in knowing that you're not alone. This community grows bigger each and every day, but no matter how big it gets, it will always be, for me at least, based on a real intimate feeling of understanding and recognition and peace without judgment. And that is a very rare thing in this day and age, and it is something I am most grateful for. So yeah, all that soppy emo-ness out the way. The robot dinosaur. And this is just a sort of prime example of how wonderfully surprising life can be, even in the most smallest of things. When I finished work yesterday, I went round to visit my mum's workplace. She works for a audio-visual rental company in town. And she said to me, I have something that you might be interested in. And I was like, okay. Because she knows I'm into music and techie stuff and all that kind of cool geekery shenanigans. And I said, okay, so what is it? And then I heard this almighty noise, and then this thing appeared. And I'm going to show you what it does in a minute. It's not going to be very relaxing. So if you are planning on relaxing or you're settling down for the evening, you might want to skip forward a few minutes, or I don't know, maybe at least I'll tell you now in advance, turn your volume down because this thing is really loud. But essentially, I ended up, through random possibilities, owning a robot dinosaur. It was bought for one of my mum's. No, I don't think it was bought. I think it was handed to one of my mum's co-workers who has a little girl who unfortunately isn't very well at the minute, but she loves dinosaurs. And I mean, who wouldn't? Because, dinosaurs rock, and they are awesome. I used to love dinosaurs as a kid. In fact, that's a whole different story. I was going to talk about Jurassic Park being one of the first films I ever saw as a kid, but then that kind of takes me, and that's a whole other side tangent for another day. But anyway, in short, dinosaurs, awesome. Robots, awesome too. Join the two together, you have two great things that are awesome together to make double awesomeness. I'm just totally whirring on anyway. So I have this robot dinosaur now, and it's actually kind of frightening. So I'm going to just give you a little bit of advance warning. Turn your volume down, or maybe skip ahead a few minutes. I'm going to show you the dinosaur and how it works, I guess. See what I mean? It's kind of frightening. Look at its beady eye and its teeth. I would be frightened of that as a kid. I think as a grown man I'm kind of frightened of it. But this is my robot dinosaur that I now have. And I'm going to talk to it, and it's voice activated and sound activated, so you just need to talk to it. So obviously I'm going to kind of come out a soft speaking voice and use my normal voice, but I'm also going to use Alan's voice as well, because I was asked if Alan could make an appearance in this video. So for Miss Whispering Me and everyone else who, for some odd reason, likes Alan, here he is. Why, hello, dinosaur! Hi, pie, shy, dinosaur! Oh my god, it's like it's trying to attack you. Hey. Hey. No. Don't frighten them. Over there. That's right. Crazy ass dinosaur. So yeah, that's my toy robot dinosaur. It doesn't have a name, so maybe you guys want to help me name it. I don't know. Rawr. But yeah, it's strange, but you can just go with the rest of my strange stuff. I have plenty of strange things. I mean, look up there. If you can see, on top of the CD rack, I have a stuffed toy rat. It's not a real one, it's just a toy rat, and there's some more bears. if you don't know, I love bears and I love records, and since I started using Instagram, essentially that's all I take pictures of is bears and records and sort of shaky skyline shots, which look terrible, but anyway. So yeah, I'm gonna make an additional bit to this video. This is such a totally random, hacked together video, but anyway. Scary dinosaur bit over, and we're going to switch back into relaxing mode. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through my small but modestly charming record collection. Okay guys, so the dinosaur is safely away. It's taking a nap at the minute, so we're going to stick to quiet speaking, so not to wake it and disturb it and make it go all crazy again. So yeah, I wanted to go through my record collection. It's pretty small at the minute, but to be fair, I've only been collecting the last few months, pretty late from last year. But I'm just under about 20 records, I think, now. Some of which, most of which, I think, are records that were favourites from last year. Some of which you may have seen in my video that I did regarding favourite albums and movies of last year. So anyway, let's go through them. You may know some of these records, you may not. You may like them, you may not. Each their own. You know, everyone has different opinions and taste, and that's what makes the world wonderful. Because if we all like the same thing, we'd be pretty bored of each other after about 5 minutes. So here we go. Some of which are new actually, as of this week. The first one is self-titled sophomore album from Bon Iver, obviously Bon Iver. This is my favourite record of last year, and I think it's just generally going to go down over time as one of my favourite records ever. I just absolutely adore this album. Just beautiful and so creative and imaginative, and just literally ticks all the right boxes. Second record is the what? Let's go for sleep. Okay, we'll lay them down flat for now. Second record is the debut album from Bon Iver, which is called Forever Ago. And this is what obviously got me into Bon Iver. Recorded over a short period of time in an isolated log cabin by himself practically. It's got a very bare and stripped out feel to it, but that's essentially what gives it its heart and makes it such a beautiful record. There you go, 2 Bon Iver records. The two that sort of slipped down. Hang on a minute, I'm going to adjust my camera. Okay, so I've adjusted my camera so I've got a little bit more angle to work with, I guess. Third record is Bot Run by the boss himself, Mr. Bruce Springsteen. An artist that I didn't really kind of get into until it'll be about 2 years ago. I actually listened to this record on my birthday in 2011, I think, and it was the first full album I'd heard of Bruce Springsteen. I'd obviously heard bits and pieces, but it was the first time I actually sat down and listened to the man properly, and it was just a treat. And this record's just fantastic. I don't even know how to explain it. It just kind of just warms your heart a little bit, or rather a lot. So yeah, oh Bruce. So there you go, Bruce Springsteen, Want to Run. Album number 4, and this other one's going to slip behind it, I can tell, or maybe not, was a serious contender for my favourite record of last year, and it was up until a certain point when things changed, but anyway, this is Kill for Love by Chromatics. If you've never heard of Chromatics, or Italians Do It Better, the label, or Johnny Jewel, the best way I would describe it is if you've ever seen the film Drive with Ryan Gosling, and you kind of like the tone and style that the soundtrack to that film took, you'd pretty much like Chromatics, or anything on the Italians Do It Better label. But this record is just amazing. It's 90 minutes long, which is pretty long for a record, but it really justifies that time length. Just really epic, sweeping, emotionally resonant tracks, which just, oh my goodness, it's amazing. So there you go. Chromatics, Kill for Love. The next record was a favourite from last year, and it is from an Australian group called Castrati. I think that's how you pronounce the name. Or Castrati, I think. The album's called Eora, and I think that's how you pronounce it. And it's sort of down-tempo, ambient, synth, gloom music. Very sort of dark and dense and sparse, and really rich textures, and really sort of well-worked atmospheres on that record. It's not the happiest or nicest of listening, but it's pretty deep and it's pretty dynamic in a lot of the things it does and manages to achieve. And yeah, so if you like sort of down-tempo, shoegazy, synthy stuff, that might be for you. That's Castrati with Eora. So what's that? How many we've got so far? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So album number 6, one of my all-time favourites, and that one's going to sit behind it. And it is self-titled debut by The Clash. A lot of people give Sex Pistols far too much credit for the punk scene in the UK, and don't give The Clash enough credit in my eyes. And when The Clash do get recognised, it's always for London Calling, which is a phenomenal album, but personal preferences of mine make this my favourite Clash record. Just phenomenal, just a classic and a favourite of mine for a good reason. If you're only really familiar with the stuff from like Combat Rock, or from The Clash, like Should I Stay or Should I Go, and the more well-known stuff, you should really kind of give their self-titled debut a listen. So many good tracks on here, just I'm So Bored with the USA, White Riot, which is a personal favourite of mine of all time. What's My Name? Oh, Career Opportunities, an amazing cover of Police and Thieves. Janie Jones, which again is just another favourite. Just absolutely love The Clash. I don't know what happened to my voice then. I think I was trying to breathe and talk at the same time, which, you know, you do anyway, so I don't know. Just ignore me. It's probably best. This one I showed in my favourites of 2012 video, is Death Grips, The Money Store, which is certainly a record not for everybody, but if you like very abstract, experimental ideas, and sonic adventurism, I guess, would be one way of putting this album, then this is for you. You know, if you like things weird and wonderful and alternative, I guess. Essentially they are an alternative hip-hop group, but Yep, Death Grips. I think I said this in the video that I did for the end of the year. The cover artwork, as odd as it is very Raymond Pettibon, which is a very sort of well-renowned artist doing a lot of artwork for punk bands, and it's kind of got that vibe to it, and I like it because it's hand-drawn, and I'm a sucker for anything that's hand-drawn, essentially. The next record is again another one that featured on the list. I think there's a few in a row that did. LP, Cancer for Cure, more hip-hop, but fabulous hip-hop. Again, I guess your classic is alt hip-hop, because it's not usual stuff that people think hip-hop is. That's the thing. A lot of people think hip-hop is just very one-dimensional, and it's all about bling and hoes and weed and guns and all that kind of stuff, but real good hip-hop goes much deeper than that. Probes the soul, the mind, and the cosmos in the most amazing and peculiar and pioneering ways. I can't remember if this was on the video or not, on the end of year one, I mean. But it was definitely one of my favourite records from last year. It's Flying Lotus, Until the Quiet Comes. In my next batch of records, I think I'm going to be ordering either Cosmogramma or his debut record, which I think was called Los Angeles, because I love Flying Lotus. He essentially makes very sort of avant-garde experimental beats. He is a relation to John Coltrane, I think, the jazz musician, the late great jazz musician. So he takes a lot of jazz inspirations and sort of weird and wonderfully colourful ideas, a lot of sort of psychedelic elements and mechanical elements, and kind of just throws all sorts into the mix. And strange cover art, but I kind of like the blood colouring on it. So there you go. Until the Quiet Comes, Flying Lotus. Kind of just changed my camera angle again, so this video is going to be very sort of ramshackle together, but it could be worse. So my next record is one that I just recently got. It was from 2 years ago, a favourite of mine from 2 years ago, and it is Total Life Forever by the band Foals, who are like an English math rock, indie rock, alt rock kind of band. And their first album, Antidotes, was really good, but this kind of just saw them take what was good about that record and their style back then to different places. It just sort of really saw them open themselves up. And yeah, the track Spanish Sahara kind of ignited my love for Foals and for this record, and you know, it just really sort of opens up all kinds of avenues on this album, and it's just wonderful listen. And they've got a new album coming out in a couple of weeks, which is the follow-up to this, so obviously I'm kind of excited about that. There you go, again, nice artwork, kind of odd. But nice nonetheless. The next record is another favourite from that year, from 2011, and it's one that I got only just yesterday in the post, and it is a double LP, which I have a few of, which basically means just 2 discs, breaking the record down into 2 discs, and it is the self-titled album from James Blake, who is known for a genre called post-dubstep. Now, you've probably heard of dubstep, and most dubstep you've probably heard is horrible and just full of whoop and big drops and what have you, but he kind of took inspiration from the work that a producer called Burial did, whose album Untrue I'm waiting on, and kind of took the idea of playing with sort of bass orientated sounds and sort of signatures and bits of timbre from that from the dubstep sort of beat based two-step genres, and kind of tinkered with them and applied more ambient sounds, more sort of vocal sounds. He's got a wonderful voice, James Blake, if you've never heard him before. And just kind of made it more atmospheric and more dynamic. So I'm looking forward to listening to that again. I'm going to have a go spin of that later, I think. I've changed camera angle again because the records kept slipping down. I really need somewhere properly to hold them, or somewhere proper to hold them even. I need to speak properly, and I need to find somewhere proper to hold them, essentially. So I've got them all by me, and I'm just going to lift them up and go through the rest of them. So my next record is another one that I just got yesterday, and it is my favourite record from this past year just gone, 2012. It is the major label debut, but essentially second album from rapper Kendrick Lamar. The album is called Good Kid, Mad City. And I ordered this about 6-7 weeks ago, but they ran out of pressings, and I had to wait for repressings to come in before they shipped it to me. But yeah, I just love this record, and just amazing. Just, again, what I was saying before about hip-hop, it just kind of opens it up two entirely different avenues. Just amazing storytelling on this record. Just a real good vibe running throughout. Just really clever, really creative, very, very imaginative. The next record is the first one I actually got. This is the first vinyl record I actually bought myself. And it is the self-titled debut from LCD Sound System. You may or may not be familiar with them. I love LCD Sound System, so when they broke up and they did their sort of farewell concert, it actually made me a little sad, because it's very rare that you kind of see a band begin and end in such a short period of time. And so yeah, so this was the first record, and it's just full of goodness. If you like to dance, basically, then you should give this a spin, because this record will make you dance until your feet are sore. In fact, LCD Sound System in general will make you dance until your feet are sore. The next record is one of my favourite albums of all time. It was the very first record I remember having and listening to on cassette tape. Some of you will be too young to even know what a cassette tape is, but it is what us oldies listened to before, CDs, and even before MP3s or iPods. Just even before the iPod was a idea in Steve Jobs' mind, we listened to stuff on cassette tape. And when I was little, I had this record on cassette tape, and it is Michael Jackson's Thriller. Michael Jackson, everyone has an opinion on him. Some people love him, some people hate him, and not just for his music, but what have you. But all that aside, there's just no way that I can deny how good this record is. It is essentially a pop masterpiece with the exception of the Paul McCartney track, which is the only weak link on the track. The Girl Is Mine, which, if you've never heard, is basically Paul McCartney from the Beatles, obviously arguing with Michael Jackson over a lady, and it's kind of strange, and the song isn't wonderful, and it could have done without it, but everything else is just too good that it basically overrides it, and I just pretend it's not on there. Next record, again, another one of my favourites, an all-time favourite. I remember listening to this when I was kind of just coming into my own musical maturity, as it were, when I stopped listening to what other people were listening to and stopped listening to radio stuff and began to make and develop my own taste. I came across this record. It is Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. I'm a big Pink Floyd fan, and unfortunately as of yet I haven't actually got any more Pink Floyd vinyls, but that will change over time. But the one that I had to get, and one of the first records that I did get, was this right here. Just an amazing experience. It's not even an album, it's just an experience, and one that can and usually does change on every listen, but always remains just masterfully crafted and just amazingly put together. Just so ahead of its time, so advanced, and just mind-boggling in the most amazing way. If you've never heard this record, oh, you need to. I don't know why I did a big dramatic sigh or breath or noise, but I did. Next record, we're coming close to the end. Next record is In Rainbows by Radiohead, and I'm going to cause a bit of controversy here because so many people say that OK Computer is the best Radiohead album, and there's no denying it is amazing, but for me, In Rainbows is their best album that they've ever done, and it really has set the bar really high for them, I think. I just think it's incredibly consistent, incredibly brave and imaginative, and just so many amazing flourishes across just a full body of consistently brilliant music. And yeah, I stick by that statement. In Rainbow is definitely, at least it's my favourite Radiohead album, but I also happen to think it's the best album they've done as well. You may disagree, you may not, you may agree with me completely. That's a wonderful thing about music. This album is one of my all-time favourites, and you probably know that because I made a whole video about it once. It is Ryan Adams' Heartbreaker. I got this about 2 weeks ago, and strangely enough I haven't actually listened to it yet, and I feel kind of guilty because I've been wanting this for so long, and I don't even know why this wasn't my first purchase. It kind of makes sense for it to be, but if you've not seen my video on this album, in short, the story is this album was the sort of master key that opened up the door to music and possibilities of music to me. I talked about going through a transitional stage of musical maturity just before. This was the landmark for that whole thing, and quite possibly the catalyst to why I went from really liking music as a young kid to absolutely adoring it and pouring myself into it as I got older. So I'll always have a fond place in my heart for that record. 2 more now, and the penultimate record that I'm going to show you, again, came very close to being one of my favourite albums of last year, but just kind of missed out. But still, it is amazing nonetheless. It is a sophomore album from an Australian psychedelic rock group called Tame Impala. The album is called Lonerism, and it does an amazing job of taking the very jarring aspect of loneliness and introspective thinking and isolation and sets it to the most mind-expanding psychedelic rock I've heard in a long, long time. If you're a fan of the Beatles psych stuff and Todd Rundgren's stuff along those similar lines, you'll adore this record. I know that I do. So Tame Impala. I don't know whether or not I like the artwork or not. It kind of fits the theme and tone of the album, but it's kind of an ugly photograph. But yet it works in its own right. I don't know. I think I'll always be undecided about the artwork, but the album itself is pretty amazing. And last but by no means least, another favourite from last year, is the sophomore album from the XX called Coexist. Very minimal, very bare, very stripped down, very down tempo. Perfect music for nighttime. If you are looking to maybe take a break from listening to videos at night, or ASM artists, or soft-spoken stuff, or whispering, you just kind of want some mood music for the night that's really sort of deep, but on the most understated level, the most amazingly understated level. I cannot recommend this enough. Coexist by the XX, easily one of my favourite records of last year, and just a wonderful, wonderful record. A band that divides so many people, but I firmly am on the love bus for the XX. I don't know where that phrase came from, but I kind of like it, I think. So there you go. Feeling happier. Got a new dinosaur robot. Records. Good times. Ahead. Great people. Great community. Liberty out. Thank you for watching and for continuing to watch and listening to me ramble and much more on. It sincerely means the world to me. And thank you so much, guys.